Ethan Cole had a rule. He never attended employee events. Not birthdays, not promotions, and certainly not weddings. At 39, Ethan was the youngest CEO in Chicago's fast-rising tech scene. Cold reputation, precise words, perfectly tailored suits. To the world, he was a success story. To his employees, he was distant, untouchable, almost unreal. So when his assistant burst into his office that Friday morning, breathless and pale, Ethan barely looked up from his laptop. "Sir, it's about Mia." That made him pause. Mia Carter, junior analyst, quiet, always early, always invisible. "What about her?" Ethan asked, tone flat. She won't be coming to work anymore," the assistant said carefully. "Her fiancé's family canceled the wedding. They said she's not presentable enough. They cut off all funding. The venue, the food, everything is gone." Ethan frowned. Not because of the wedding, because Mia had submitted a resignation email at 3:12 a.m. No explanation, just one line. "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." "Where is she now?" Ethan asked. "At the church. The guests already arrived. She's inside alone." Silence filled the room. Ethan closed his laptop. 20 minutes later, his black car stopped outside a small, aging church on the south side. Guests stood outside whispering. Some laughed awkwardly. Others checked their phones, bored by the delay. Inside at the altar, Mia sat on the steps in her wedding dress, hands shaking, mascara streaked, veil thrown beside her like something she no longer deserved. She didn't hear the footsteps at first. "Mia." She looked up, her breath caught. "Mr. Cole," her voice broke instantly. I can explain." "You don't need to," Ethan said quietly. He looked around, the empty altar, the unpaid florist taking flowers back, the pastor pretending not to notice. Ethan took off his suit jacket. Then he did something no one expected. He stepped forward, stood beside her and said clearly, "This wedding is not canceled." Mia stared at him in shock. "I'll cover everything," he continued. "The venue, the reception, the staff today." People gasped. "But sir, why?" she whispered. "I'm just an employee." Ethan met her eyes. "No," he said. "You're someone who showed up every day when no one noticed. Today, someone will." He turned to the stunned guests. "The ceremony will begin in 10 minutes. The wedding went on. Photos were taken. Smiles were forced. But one thing was clear. This was no longer a normal wedding. And as Ethan watched Mia walk down the aisle alone, something stirred inside him. Something unfinished. Something dangerous. Because 6 months later, the truth behind that wedding would explode in a way none of them could survive unchanged. Make sure to like and subscribe our channel for more stories like this. 6 months earlier, before the flowers were returned, before the whispers started, before Ethan Cole stepped into that church, a phone call had already sealed Mia Carter's fate. Mia's phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, wedding dress still wrapped in plastic, staring at a spreadsheet on her laptop. Even the night before her wedding, she had been fixing a client error, because that's who she was. She answered without checking the number. "Yes." A woman's voice responded, sharp, practiced, powerful. "This is Billionaire Whitmore." Mia's stomach tightened. Billionaire Whitmore was her fiancé's mother. Old money, old influence. The kind of woman whose name opened doors without knocking. "We need to talk," Billionaire said calmly. "About tomorrow." Mia swallowed. "If this is about the seating arrangement, I already explained." "Oh, this is far beyond seating," Billionaire interrupted. "I've reviewed your background, your parents, your education, your upbringing." There was a pause. "You're not suitable," Billionaire continued. "My son will not marry a girl who still worries about rent and overtime." Mia felt her chest tighten. "I work hard, I'm independent, You're temporary," Billionaire snapped. This engagement was a mistake. Then came the words that shattered her. "I've already spoken to the venue, the caterer, the church coordinator. Every payment has been pulled." Mia stood up so fast the chair fell behind her. "You can't do that," she whispered. "People are flying in. I already paid my share." "And you'll be refunded," Billionaire said coldly. "Consider it mercy." Silence. Then Billionaire delivered the final blow. "If you walk away quietly tonight, I'll make sure this doesn't follow you professionally." Mia's breath hitched. "What does that mean?" "It means," Billionaire said smoothly, "that Chicago is a very small corporate world. One call from me and doors close." The line went dead. Mia didn't cry. Not yet. She sat there for nearly an hour staring at the wall, replaying every sacrifice she'd made, every late night, every skipped meal, every hope that this life would finally be different. At 3:12 12 a.m., she opened her work email. She typed a single sentence. "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." She hit send. Then she did something she never thought she would. She went to the church anyway. What Mia didn't know, what Eleanor Whitmore didn't know, was that one of those canceled payments triggered an internal alert. At Cole Systems, Ethan Cole reviewed every large financial anomaly personally, and when he saw the vendor name, the church, the sudden withdrawals, he frowned because the account holder was not a Whitmore company. It was Mia Carter. Ethan leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Why would a junior analyst be funding her own wedding? Why would those funds suddenly be reversed? And why did her resignation email arrive just hours later? "Pull Mia Carter's file," Ethan said quietly. Minutes later, her full profile appeared on his screen. Top performance reviews, 0 complaints, consistently overlooked for promotion. And one more detail caught his attention. 6 months earlier, Mia had stayed late one night to help recover corrupted financial data. That data belonged to Ethan. She had never told anyone. She had saved him millions, and he had never even thanked her. Back in the church, as guests whispered and judgment hung thick in the air, Mia felt smaller than she ever had in her life. She didn't expect anyone to come. She didn't expect rescue. She was simply trying to survive the humiliation with dignity. Then she heard his voice. "Mia," and everything changed. What Mia still didn't know, what Ethan himself hadn't fully realized yet, was that Eleanor Whitmore had underestimated one thing. She thought power only lived in old names. She had no idea she had just challenged a man who hated injustice and never forgot a debt. And 6 months later, when Mia finally begins to rebuild her life inside Cole Systems, when promotions, rumors, and unspoken tension rise, Eleanor Whitmore will return, this time not to cancel a wedding, but to expose a truth that could destroy Ethan Cole's empire and force Mia to choose between loyalty and revenge. 6 months later, Cole Systems no longer felt the same to Mia Carter. The glass walls were still cold, the hallways still buzzed with quiet competition, but now every step she took felt watched. She had returned to work 3 days after the wedding. No announcement, no explanation, just her at her desk, head down, pretending nothing extraordinary had happened. But nothing was normal anymore, because on her first morning back, an email landed in every employee's inbox at exactly 9:00 a.m. Subject: organizational update, immediate effect. People stopped typing. Coffee cups froze midair. Mia opened it slowly, her hands already trembling. Effective immediately, Mia Carter is promoted to senior strategic analyst, reporting directly to executive leadership. Silence. Then whispers exploded. That has to be a mistake. She was a junior. How did she jump 2 levels? Isn't she the one from the wedding? Mia felt heat crawl up her neck. She stood abruptly and walked toward HR, heart pounding. "This isn't right," she said quietly to the HR director. "There's been an error." The director avoided her eyes. "There hasn't," she replied. "This came directly from Mr. Cole." Mia's breath caught. Ethan Cole, the man who saved her wedding, the man she had avoided since. "And there's more," HR added, sliding another document across the desk. "A private office, a salary adjustment that doubled her income, full authority on a high-visibility project." Mia pushed the paper back. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," HR said softly, but he insisted. By noon, the office had chosen a narrative. She must be involved with him. There was no other explanation. When Mia walked past conference rooms, conversations died instantly. Eyes followed her. Judgment lingered in the air like perfume she couldn't wash off. At 2:17 p.m. she was summoned. CEO's office. She stood outside the door for a full minute before knocking. "Come in." Ethan Cole didn't look up immediately. He was reviewing reports, calm as ever. "Sit," he said. She didn't. "I don't want this," Mia said, voice shaking despite her effort. "People think." "I don't care what people think," Ethan interrupted, finally meeting her eyes. "I do," she replied. "I've spent my whole life proving I earned my place." Ethan leaned back. "You did earn it," he said, "long before the wedding." He turned his screen toward her. "Numbers, charts, security logs. The night you recovered that corrupted data," he continued, "you saved this company $4.7 million. You stayed quiet. You didn't demand credit." Mia swallowed. "I was just doing my job." "No," Ethan said firmly. "You were doing mine." Silence stretched between them. "This promotion isn't charity," he added. It's correction. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Then why does it feel like protection? Because it was. Ethan didn't deny it. There are people watching you now, he said carefully, and not all of them want you here. Mia stiffened. Alina Whitmore. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's been asking questions, he admitted. About you, about me, about internal decisions. Mia's stomach dropped. She said she'd make sure it followed me professionally, Mia murmured. I thought she meant quietly. Ethan stood. She doesn't do anything quietly, he said, and she doesn't forgive. That evening, as Mia packed up to leave, she overheard two senior managers whispering near the elevators. You think she knows about the Whitmore investment. If Alina pulls out, Coal Systems could bleed. Mia froze. Investment. She walked out into the night with a sinking feeling. Across the street, Ethan watched her from his office window. He had promoted her to protect her, but he had also placed her directly in the line of fire. Because Alina Whitmore wasn't just a bitter mother-in-law. She was one of Coal Systems' earliest silent investors, and she was preparing to burn everything down. The meeting was marked confidential. No assistants, no junior staff, no digital records. At 7:00 a.m., before the city fully woke, Ethan Cole entered the executive boardroom with a tension he hadn't felt in years. The room was already occupied. 6 board members sat in silence, polished and composed, men and women who had backed him when Coal Systems was nothing more than an idea and a risk. And at the far end of the table sat Alina Whitmore, elegant, calm, smiling, as if she hadn't destroyed a young woman's life with a single phone call. Ethan, Alina said warmly, it's been far too long. You requested an emergency session, Ethan replied, ignoring the pleasantry. You have the floor. She folded her hands. Let's not waste time, she said. I'm concerned about instability. One board member frowned. Instability. Yes, Alina continued smoothly. Sudden promotions, emotional decision-making, blurred boundaries. Ethan didn't react, but every person in that room knew exactly who she was referring to. Mia Carter, Alina said aloud, finally dropping the mask. A junior analyst promoted beyond protocol. No board approval, no review cycle. That decision was mine, Ethan said, and it was justified. Alina tilted her head. Is it justified or personal? The room stiffened. One board member cleared his throat. Alina, are you suggesting? I'm suggesting, Alina interrupted, that my continued investment depends on this company maintaining credibility. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents, emails, internal access logs, photos. Mia entering Ethan's office late at night. The church, the wedding day, Ethan standing beside her. Ethan's fists clenched under the table. You had her followed, he said quietly. I had concerns verified, Alina replied. There's a difference. She leaned forward. Remove her from her position, Alina said calmly. Publicly, quietly, or I withdraw my capital. Silence slammed into the room. One board member whispered, that's nearly 30% of our private funding. Another added, if she pulls out, our expansion dies. Ethan stood. You're asking me to punish a woman you already humiliated, he said, for competence. I'm asking you to choose, Alina replied, your company or your conscience. Mia had no idea any of this was happening. She was too busy working. That morning, she discovered something buried deep in a legacy system, an outdated contract structure tied to early investors. One name appeared again and again, Whitmore Holdings. But what made her pause wasn't the ownership. It was the clauses, exit penalties, control provisions, a silent override allowing influence without public disclosure. Her heart pounded. Alina Whitmore wasn't just an investor. She was a puppeteer. At 11:42 a.m., Mia requested access to archived board files. Denied. At 11:43, her system access briefly froze. At 11:44, she received an email. Subject meeting immediate. From Ethan Cole. Mia entered his office and knew instantly something was wrong. He looked tired, not angry, not cold. Tired. She's here, he said. Mia didn't ask who. I know, she replied quietly. Ethan looked up surprised. You do. I found the contracts, Mia said. She owns more than money. She owns leverage. Ethan exhaled slowly. She wants you gone, he said. Today. Mia nodded. Then do it, she said. Ethan stared at her. What? Fire me, Mia continued. Publicly end this. No, he said sharply. I won't. You don't get it, Mia interrupted, voice trembling but firm. She wins if you protect me. She wins if you sacrifice me. Either way, she keeps control. Ethan's jaw tightened. There's another option, Mia said. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Let me finish what I started. That afternoon, a company-wide alert went out. Emergency board update 6:00 p.m. Employees whispered. Stock watchers panicked. Media outlets circled. Elena Whitmore smiled from the boardroom seat, confident. She believed Ethan would fold. She believed Mia was already defeated. What she didn't know was that Mia Carter had found something buried so deep in Cole Systems' foundation that exposing it would either free them both or destroy everything Ethan had built. Mia didn't go home that night. She couldn't. Instead, she sat alone in a dim corner of Cole Systems' data floor, long after the cleaning crew had finished and the city outside had gone quiet. The building felt different after midnight, less corporate, more honest, as if secrets felt safer in the dark. Her access badge still worked. For now, she pulled up the legacy servers again, the ones everyone pretended no longer mattered. Systems built when Cole Systems was desperate, young, and vulnerable. Systems Ethan himself had once called temporary scaffolding. Temporary things, Mia had learned, were often the most dangerous. She followed the trail she had started that morning. Whitmore Holdings, shell entities, layered trusts. But then she found something new, a document labeled Project Atlas. Her pulse quickened. She opened it and froze. Project Atlas wasn't a product. It wasn't software. It was people. Early-stage data harvested from beta users years ago. Personal financial patterns, behavioral profiles, predictive risk models. Information powerful enough to manipulate markets or lives. And the signatures at the bottom. Whitmore Holdings, 3 board members, past and present, and Ethan Cole's name. Mia's chest tightened. She scrolled further. A timestamp. Approved during emergency funding round. She remembered that year. Cole Systems had been days from collapse. Ethan had taken the deal to survive. But what stopped her cold was the amendment, added months later, without Ethan's signature, without board disclosure. Whitmore Holdings had quietly expanded control, embedding leverage clauses that allowed Elena Whitmore to influence data use, suppress audits, and silence internal objections. Legally, cleanly, ruthlessly, Mia leaned back shaking. This wasn't just corporate pressure. This was blackmail. At 2:14 a.m. her screen flickered. A system warning appeared. Unauthorized query DTCTD. Her access window began closing, one permission at a time. Someone was locking her out. She grabbed her flash drive and started copying everything she could. Documents, screenshots, audit trails. Her hands moved fast, but her thoughts moved faster. Ethan doesn't know, she realized. He had signed the original survival deal, but Elena had turned it into a cage she now controlled. At 2:19 a.m. her computer shut down. The room went dark. Mia sat there, heart racing, listening to the hum of emergency lights. She was no longer just an employee digging too deep. She was a liability. Across the city, Ethan Cole stood on his penthouse balcony, staring at a glass of untouched whiskey. He hadn't slept. The board meeting replayed in his mind. Elena's calm voice, the board's silence, the word choice echoing like a threat. His phone buzzed. A single message. From IT security. We detected abnormal data extraction activity linked to Mia Carter's credentials. Ethan's blood ran cold. He called her. Straight to voicemail. He called again. Nothing. A third time. Still nothing. Ethan didn't hesitate. Get my car, he told his assistant. Now. Mia stepped out of the building just before dawn. The sky was gray, heavy with rain. She pulled her coat tighter, the flash drive burning like a secret in her pocket. She didn't see the black SUV parked across the street. Didn't notice the man inside speaking quietly into a phone. Confirmed, he said. She has it. Mia's phone vibrated. Ethan Cole calling. She stopped walking. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. Then she answered. Mia, Ethan said, voice tight. Where are you? I found it, she replied softly. Everything. Silence. Then carefully, are you safe? Mia looked up. The SUV's headlights turned on. I don't think so, she whispered. Mia, Ethan said sharply, listen to me. Do not go home, do not talk to anyone, I'm coming to you. It's bigger than your company, Mia said. She's been controlling it for years, using you as cover. I know, Ethan said, and that's why you need to trust me now. The SUV door opened. Mia took a step back. "Ethan," she said, fear finally breaking through, "if something happens to me." "Nothing will," he said fiercely. "I promise you." The line went dead. Alina Whitmore stood in her kitchen, perfectly composed, sipping morning tea. Her phone rang. "Yes," she said. "They found Project Atlas," the voice reported. Alina smiled. "Then it's time," she replied calmly. "End this." She hung up. Outside, the city woke up unaware, and for the first time since that wedding day, Ethan Cole understood the truth. Saving Mia's wedding had been easy. Saving her life would cost him everything. The rain started falling hard. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just cold, heavy drops that soaked through Mia's coat as she backed away from the SUV. The man stepping out wasn't dressed like a thug. No hoodie, no mask, just a tailored coat and a calm face. The kind of calm that only comes from confidence and authority. "Mia Carter," he said evenly, "we need to talk." Her heart hammered. "Who are you?" she asked, steadying her voice with effort. "Someone trying to keep this from becoming ugly," he replied. "Please, let's do this quietly." Behind him, the SUV idled. Mia's fingers tightened around her phone. "Step away from her." The voice cut through the rain like steel. Ethan Cole's car screeched to a stop at the curb. He was already out of the vehicle, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, eyes locked on the man in front of Mia. The man sighed. "Mr. Cole," he said politely, "this really isn't necessary." Ethan moved in front of Mia without hesitation. "She's under my protection," Ethan said. "Whatever you think you're doing, stop." The man smiled faintly. "I work for Whitmore Holdings, Legal Risk Division," he said. "We're here to recover proprietary materials." Mia felt Ethan tense. "That data doesn't belong to Whitmore Holdings," Ethan snapped, "and you know it." "Ownership," the man replied calmly, "is a matter of contracts." Ethan laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Then you should read the one she just copied," he said. The man's expression changed. "Just slightly." "Enough." Sirens wailed in the distance. The man turned confused. Ethan didn't move. "Don't," Ethan said quietly. The SUV driver tried to pull away. Too late. Police cars blocked the street from both ends. Uniformed officers stepped out, weapons lowered but ready. The man raised his hand slowly. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. A voice spoke from behind the officers. "No, it is." Alina Whitmore stepped into the rain, impeccably dressed, perfect posture, eyes sharp with fury. "Mia Carter," she said, ignoring everyone else. "You have no idea what you've involved yourself in." Mia stepped forward before Ethan could stop her. "I know exactly what I'm involved in," she said. "You stole data, you manipulated contracts, you threatened my career and my life." Alina's smile vanished. "You were nothing," she hissed, "a nobody who got lucky." Ethan turned to the officers. "She's attempting to intimidate a federal whistleblower," he said, "in public." Alina froze. "What did you just say?" Ethan didn't look at her. "I filed the report 2 hours ago," he said calmly. "Project Atlas, unauthorized amendments, coercion, obstruction." Mia stared at him. "You what?" Ethan finally looked back at her. "I told you to trust me." An officer approached Alina. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "we need you to come with us." "This is outrageous," Alina snapped. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes," the officer replied evenly. "That's why we're here." The man from the SUV was already in cuffs. Alina turned to Ethan, disbelief shaking her voice. "You would burn your own company," she said, "for her." Ethan stepped closer. "No," he said, "I'd burn it for the truth." Alina laughed bitterly. "You think this ends me," she said. "You signed that deal, you're just as guilty." Ethan nodded. "I know," he said. "That's why I turned myself in two." Mia's breath left her body. "What?" Ethan reached into his coat and handed his phone to the officer. "All communications, all documents," he said. "I authorized the original deal. I should have stopped what followed." The officer hesitated, then nodded. "Mr. Cole," he said, "you'll need to come with us as well." The words hit Mia harder than the rain. Ethan turned to her. "Mia," he said softly, "you did the right thing." She shook her head, tears mixing with rain. "You said you'd protect me." "I am," he replied, "even from myself." The officers moved in. As Ethan was led away, he looked back one last time. "Don't let them bury this," he said. "Promise me." Mia pressed the flash drive into the officer's hand. "I won't," she said. "I promise." By noon, the story was everywhere. Tech giant CEO turns himself. Secret data project exposed. Elite investor, ARRESTED in pre-dawn raid. Coal system stock plummeted. Board members resigned. News vans flooded the streets. and in a small interrogation room, Mia sat alone, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, staring at the wall. She had told the truth, but the cost was unbearable, because the man who saved her wedding, who believed in her when no one else did, was now facing prison, and she didn't yet know that Eleanor Whitmore still had one last move left. The courtroom was silent in a way that felt unnatural, not peaceful, not respectful, predatory. Mia sat in the second row, hands clasped so tightly her fingers ached. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but she could feel them anyway, waiting outside like wolves. Across the room, Ethan Cole sat at the defense table. No tailored suit, no commanding presence, just a gray jacket, restrained hands, and eyes that hadn't left the judge once. Eleanor Whitmore entered last, chin high, expression calm, as if this were a charity gala instead of an arraignment. She didn't look at Ethan. She looked at Mia and smiled. The prosecution began strong. Unauthorized data harvesting, coercive contracts, investor manipulation. Project Atlas was laid bare in technical detail, enough to make the courtroom uneasy, but not enough to assign a single villain. Then Eleanor's attorney stood, a slow, confident man with a voice trained to sound reasonable. "Let be very clear," he said. Project Atlas was approved by the CEO of Cole Systems. He held up a document, Ethan's signature. Mia's chest tightened. The attorney continued. Whitmore Holdings did not force Mr. Cole to sign this. There was no gun to his head, no coercion. He paused. In fact, this agreement saved Cole Systems. Without Whitmore funding this company, and every job tied to it would have collapsed. Murmurs spread. Then came the knife. "Ms. Carter," the attorney said, turning slightly, "is not a whistleblower." Mia stiffened. "She is a disgruntled employee," he continued, "who developed an inappropriate personal attachment to her CEO, an attachment that influenced illegal access to proprietary systems." Mia felt the room tilt. "That is a lie," she whispered, but no one heard. Eleanor finally spoke. "Ethan," she said softly, almost kindly, "you should tell them." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Tell them what?" the judge asked. Eleanor folded her hands. "Tell them why you really signed Project Atlas." Every eye turned to Ethan. Mia's heart began to race. This wasn't in the evidence. This was something else. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. Then he stood. "7 years ago," Ethan said quietly, "my younger brother died." The room stilled. Mia froze. He had never mentioned a brother. "He worked in fintech," Ethan continued. "Brilliant, reckless. He uncovered a data manipulation scheme tied to private equity firms." Eleanor didn't move. "He came to me for help," Ethan said. "I told him to go to regulators, to do things the right way." His voice cracked just slightly. "He died in a hit-and-run 3 days later." A sharp inhale moved through the courtroom. "No charges," Ethan said. "No suspects, just silence." He looked directly at Eleanor for the first time. "When Whitmore Holdings approached me months later," Ethan said, "offering funding, protection, and influence, I believed them when they said Atlas would be controlled, temporary." Eleanor smiled faintly. "You believed," Ethan continued, "because I was afraid." Mia's eyes filled with tears. Afraid wasn't a word she associated with Ethan Cole. "I signed," he said, "because I thought keeping the data close would prevent another death." Silence pressed down on the room. Then Eleanor's attorney spoke smoothly. "A tragic story," he said, "but fear is not coercion. Mr. Cole still chose to participate." Eleanor leaned forward. "And you continued to benefit," she added softly, "until she came along." She nodded toward Mia. "Until you decided to play hero." Mia stood up. "I didn't ask him to," she said, voice shaking but loud enough. "I didn't even know." The judge raised a hand, but Eleanor spoke again. "Didn't you?" Eleanor asked. "Or did you enjoy the protection, the promotion, the attention?" Mia's hands trembled. Ethan turned sharply. "Don't," he said. But Eleanor wasn't finished. "You know what really scares you, Ethan," she said calmly. "Not prison, not losing your company." She smiled coldly. "Losing her respect." Mia looked at Ethan. He didn't deny it. That afternoon, the ruling came down. Eleanor Whitmore was released on bond, her assets frozen but not seized. Ethan Cole was denied bail. He was remanded into federal custody pending trial. As officers led him away, Mia stood frozen. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ethan stopped, turned. For a moment, the courtroom disappeared. "You gave me something back," he said quietly. "A line I thought I'd lost." Then he was gone. That night Mia sat alone in her apartment, the silence unbearable. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Ms. Carter, a woman's voice said. This is Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Nguyen. Mia's heart skipped. We need your help, the woman continued. There's something Alina Whitmore didn't expect. Mia swallowed. What? That Ethan Cole wasn't the only one who signed Project Atlas, the prosecutor said. Mia's breath caught. There's a second authorization, the woman said. Hidden, encrypted. Whose? Mia asked. A pause. Your father. The room spun. My father's dead, Mia whispered. Yes, the prosecutor replied. And according to these files, he died for the same reason Ethan's brother did. The call ended. Mia stared at the wall, her entire past reassembling itself into something terrifying. Alina Whitmore hadn't just destroyed her wedding. She had been circling her life for years. And now Mia understood the final truth. This was Ethan's fight. It never had been. Mia sat in her apartment, the city lights flickering against the rain-streaked windows. Her hands shook as she processed the call from Assistant U.S. Attorney Nguyen. Her father, long believed gone, powerless and forgotten, had left behind a secret that could dismantle everything Alina Whitmore had built. 7 years ago, her father, Jonathan Carter, had been a mid-level analyst at a private intelligence firm, but he had stumbled across something massive, a network of covert data manipulation tied to elite investors, including Alina Whitmore. He had tried to warn regulators, just like Ethan's brother. And just like Ethan's brother, he had died in what had been reported as an accident. But the files Mia now held suggested otherwise. Encrypted correspondence, hidden transaction logs, and security footage pointing to a calculated silencing. Her pulse quickened. This was bigger than Cole Systems, bigger than her wedding, bigger than Ethan. She had a choice. Sit quietly and protect herself, or take the fight Alina had been waging for decades head-on. Meanwhile, in a luxurious penthouse several blocks away, Alina Whitmore sat in her study, sipping her evening tea. She had been monitoring every federal move, every corporate shift, and every whisper of Mia Carter's investigation. Her sharp eyes caught a notification. A secure file transfer had been intercepted by federal agents. Her lips thin. Mia Carter, she muttered, voice barely above a whisper. You're not supposed to know. For years, Alina had believed herself untouchable. She had manipulated, threatened, and erased anyone who dared cross her. But Mia's discovery of her father's hidden role and the encrypted authorization buried within Project Atlas had cracked her control. She tapped her phone. Prepare for containment, she instructed, and find Cole's daughter before the feds do. Mia didn't wait. She called Rachel Nguyen immediately. There's more, she said, hands trembling. My father, he wasn't just a signatory. He built the original safeguards within Project Atlas. He left instructions for me. Files, keys, codes, it's all there. Nguyen's voice was steady but urgent. Ms. Carter, that makes you central to the case. Alina knows it. She's already panicking. But this is good. We have leverage now. We can use your father's files to protect Ethan and expose Whitmore Holdings completely. Mia exhaled slowly, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She wasn't just a survivor of a ruined wedding anymore. She was the key to toppling a corporate empire that had thrived on fear, secrecy, and silenced voices. Ethan, sitting in the detention center, was unaware of this revelation. His world consisted of legal briefs, interrogations, and endless waiting. But somewhere deep inside, he felt a flicker of hope, an instinct that Mia could finish what he had started. Back in her apartment, Mia opened the encrypted files her father had left. The layers of protection were intense, but she navigated them carefully, using the same meticulous skills that had once saved Ethan millions. Transaction after transaction, hidden accounts, whistleblower pathways, every piece pointed to Alina Whitmore's manipulations, each one tying her directly to deaths, cover-ups, and corporate espionage. Mia leaned back, eyes wide. If this reached the right hands, Whitmore wouldn't just lose Cole Systems. She would face charges that could keep her behind bars for life. And for the first time in months, Mia realized that she wasn't just fighting for Ethan. She was fighting for her father's legacy, her own survival, and justice for everyone Alina had destroyed. That night, Alina finally realized the gravity of the situation. She had underestimated Mia Carter, the quiet, invisible analyst who had always been overlooked. The empire she had built on fear was now threatened by a woman who had nothing to lose and everything to expose. Panic seeped into her composed demeanor. For the first time, Alina understood that Project Atlas and the hidden Carter files might be the end of her. Mia didn't sleep. She stayed at her desk, the glow of her laptop reflecting in her wide, determined eyes. Every decrypted file, every hidden ledger, every unauthorized contract she'd uncovered built a map, a blueprint of Alina Whitmore's empire of coercion. She drafted a plan. Step 1: secure evidence. Flash drives, encrypted emails, and multiple cloud backups. Nothing left unprotected. Step 2: alert the authorities. Not just Nguyen, she included multiple federal and financial regulators, creating a network no single bribe or threat could corrupt. Step 3: expose. She had to time it perfectly. Too early and Alina would destroy it all. Too late and Ethan could be sacrificed. Meanwhile, Alina Whitmore's penthouse had transformed from serene command center to a war room of paranoia. Every federal trace leads to Carter, one of her assistants whispered, panic. Alina's eyes narrowed. Then we find her first, track every move, no mistakes. A knot of unease settled in her stomach. For the first time, she felt truly vulnerable. The analyst she dismissed as invisible was now orchestrating a strike capable of toppling her influence, and she didn't know where Mia would hit first. Back at Cole Systems, the boardroom was tense. Ethan's empty chair loomed at the head of the table. Whispers filled the space. Half the board wanted him freed, the other half worried about the fallout if Project Atlas became public. Then Mia appeared, calm, confident, and unannounced. Eyes turned, murmurs quieted. She laid down the files, physical copies, encrypted drives, a detailed report connecting Whitmore Holdings to coercion, cover-ups, and illegal influence over Cole Systems. I've verified everything, Mia said, her voice steady. Federal authorities have copies and regulators are aware. All of Alina Whitmore's manipulations are traceable. Every transaction, every contract, every threat. The room went still. A board member whispered, she's prepared. Mia turned, gaze sharp, and added, this isn't just for the company. It's for anyone she's silenced. And it's the only way Ethan comes out of this alive. Far across town, Alina received a notification, an official notice that the Department of Justice had opened a full investigation into Whitmore Holdings. Panic finally overtook her composure. She called her assistant, "Where Carter?" "No trace, ma'am. Every digital footprint has been secured by federal logs. She's untouchable for now." Alina's fingers trembled. "Impossible. I've controlled everything for decades." A pause. This time, we miscalculated. Back in the boardroom, the board members finally realized the full scope. Mia, the once-overlooked analyst, had orchestrated a maneuver that not only protected Ethan, but ensured Whitmore's network of corruption could no longer operate in secrecy. "She's brilliant," a senior executive muttered. Mia met their eyes. "You now have a choice. Stand with truth or risk being complicit in silence. Every delay strengthens her." The board nodded, unified for the first time in months. And in that moment, Mia understood something vital. She had stepped out of invisibility. She was no longer just an analyst, no longer just Ethan's employee, no longer just the girl whose wedding had been ruined. She had become the catalyst, the one person capable of bringing down an empire built on fear. Alina Whitmore, watching the unfolding investigation from her penthouse, finally understood the danger. The quiet, invisible girl she had dismissed was the one person she had underestimated, and she knew for the first time she might lose everything. The courtroom buzzed with tension, every eye fixed on the front. Cameras flashed beyond the glass walls, journalists whispering into microphones, analysts tracking every movement, every expression. Mia sat beside Ethan, her hands steady now, heart pounding with purpose rather than fear. Across the room, Alina Whitmore stood composed, but her eyes betrayed the first cracks of panic she had ever shown. The judge entered, the gavel echoing through the chamber like a drumbeat of fate. Silence fell. The prosecution outlined Alina's empire of manipulation, corruption, and threats. Then, Mia took the stand, her voice unwavering as she detailed Project Atlas, the unauthorized amendments, and the hidden files her father had left behind. Every fact was backed by evidence, every claim verifiable. Alina's defense faltered under the weight of truth. The meticulous empire she had relied on for decades began to crumble with each revelation. Ethan, watching Mia speak, felt a flicker of hope. For the first time, he realized that she had become more than a protector. She was the one steering justice. The judge's eyes swept the room. Based on the evidence presented, the court finds that Eleanor Whitmore and her associates engaged in illegal manipulation, coercion, and obstruction of justice. Their influence over coal systems, operations was unauthorized and unlawful. Mr. Cole's participation, given the circumstances, will be taken under consideration for sentencing. A murmur ran through the room. Eleanor's face paled. She realized finally that the one person she had underestimated, the quiet, brilliant analyst, had dismantled her empire. Ethan's hands were released. He breathed freely for the first time in months. Mia's eyes met his. No words were necessary. The battle had been won. Outside the courtroom, journalists gathered as Ethan and Mia emerged. Flashbulbs exploded around them. Mia held up a small folder, the key to the justice they had fought for, and addressed the crowd. "This story isn't just about coal systems or me," she said clearly. "It's about standing up to manipulation, uncovering truth, and ensuring accountability, no matter how powerful the person behind the lies." The crowd erupted in applause. Ethan turned to Mia, a smile breaking through months of tension. "You did this," he said softly. Mia shook her head, smiling back. "We did this together." The news cameras rolled, capturing the moment as the legacy of Project Atlas was laid bare, and Eleanor Whitmore's empire began to collapse. Mia faced the camera directly, her voice steady and compelling. "Thank you for watching our story unfold. If you loved this journey of courage, truth, and resilience, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more cinematic, emotional storytelling. Every share helps bring these stories to life." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Here, to truth, justice, and the power of standing up for what's right." Mia nodded, the weight of months of fear, secrecy, and danger finally lifting. Together, they walked into the future, unshaken, unbroken, and ready for whatever came next.